Hi, I'm Jake. Welcome to the Blind Eternities. Every single person that plays Magic the Gathering started with a deck. And every single person that enjoys Magic the Gathering found the right deck. But that path from your first deck to the right deck can sometimes be a bumpy road. And I think oftentimes we overlook some of the most important aspects of picking your first Precon. So today let's talk about what makes the best Precon for a new Magic the Gathering player. So when we talk about picking pre-constructed decks for new players in Magic the Gathering, I think frequently people look at the style. I've seen so many threads of people asking, what is a cute animal deck I can get for my girlfriend? What is a simple deck I can hand to a new player? I think once a person understands how to play Magic, and I don't believe that Commander is necessarily the best place for that. I think that the starter kits, they make the dual decks. I think Arena has a really good tutorial system. There's other better ways to learn how to play the game. But once a new player understands the rules and the general flow of the game, choosing a Precon goes beyond surface level. And I think it's important to find something that fits that player's ultimate aspirations with the game, meets them where they are, gives them that opportunity to grow. Because I've said it before, but Magic the Gathering isn't a game. It's a whole bunch of games that all just happen to use the same game pieces. And even within Commander, we see a variety of different players all trying to do extremely different things at the same table. There's definitely people that are interested in deck building. They view Magic as a puzzle with different pieces, a riddle to be solved, bringing new elements from new sets in to constantly upgrade, change the way their deck moves, finding new strategies and new interactions. But I think there's a whole separate group of people that like using the same deck, like discovering new interactions within it, new ways to play. I think there's other groups of people too. People that want to maximize the style of their deck. Each card a story. Secret layers and universes beyond. Every element perfectly crafted and fit into 100 cards. And I think there's others still that are looking for the competitive advantage, pushing the upper echelons of CEDH. All of these people fit into the same game. And many of them start with a Precon, just like this. But we want to go beyond the surface. We want to give people an opportunity to discover what's so great about this game. And I think if we're only looking at the art, the style, or if we're only looking at the simplicity of the deck's game plan, there's a lot of people that just won't grasp Magic. They won't latch on to the interesting parts of the game. Fortunately, modern Precons do a pretty good job of allowing you to explore a lot of different mechanics while still having a cohesive strategy. Some of these older Commander decks, especially going back to the first Commander decks, are a little scattered. The strategy broken into multiple parts, sometimes requiring that you build the entire deck over again from the ground up, using only a selection of the cards from that original Precon. As a new player, you don't have cards to fall back on. You don't have other things that you can swap in and out easily. And so whenever you buy a Precon, there's three considerations: mechanics, theme, and upgradeability. Different people will prioritize these things in different ratios. But let's start with the first, because I believe it's the most important. How do we choose the right mechanics for a new player? I think a lot of people immediately jump to simplicity. I want something like Velociraptor, right? Really powerful, straightforward, and just smash your opponent. But that's a strategy that doesn't always click with people. I think it's important to understand the mechanics that people are looking for. And if you want a super straightforward mechanic that a new player to gaming in general will immediately grasp and immediately enjoy, I think my favorite go-to is Landfall. This is the AC deck from Commander Legends, but there's a bunch of decks that have kind of this general theme of lands do stuff. This has a couple benefits. One, all of your draws are live. Every card you draw, if it's a spell, it does things. And if it's a land, it also does things. Both of the decks from Commander Legends had this mechanic built into it, and it's a core mechanic through many sets. So there's a lot of opportunities to trade things in and out, and as you develop, you can go very, very high in power with a deck like this. But this isn't what people are always looking for. Some of the mechanics in Magic do very different things. And my favorite question to ask to understand what somebody's looking for in their deck is, how would you defeat a dragon? I stole this from my brother. It's something that he likes to ask people when they're just starting off in a tabletop role-playing situation. It gives you a good feel for the type of character that they want to be, but I think in Magic, it can also give you a good feel for how somebody wants to interact on a table. Do they want to be that brute force, asking questions and seeing if people have the answers, laying out threat after threat, and eventually overwhelming the board for the win? Or do they want to find another method? Do they want to politic? Do they want to go super wide and fast, or controlling and eventually close out the game when their opponents have no options left? I think it's important to note that some mechanics in Magic are fairly narrow. Things like energy or rad counters don't have a lot of support outside of their native sets. And so because of that, you might be limiting the flexibility of the deck for somebody just getting started. So for that reason, if you were looking for mechanics, start with something a little more general. And even if that's something like clue tokens in Deep Clue C. This also has treasure tokens and food tokens and a variety of other things, but those token strategies run through a number of different decks. And it's really easy to take a deck like this with general mechanics that go beyond the set of its initial release and combine it with other cards. Lots of different upgrades, lots of different options for play, and a lot of different styles to fit whatever theme they might be looking for. So let's step away from mechanics and talk theme, because I think different people have different expectations for the decks that they build. And with these new Universes Beyond products coming out, I think there's a lot of people starting Magic because of specific themes. Now, whether that's a specific property or just a specific style of play that they saw, I think Universes Beyond goes a long way for those players to bringing them into the game. With Final Fantasy just around the bend, I'm a little bit reminded of the Warhammer 40k decks. Extremely heavy themed decks, built around existing properties, using a lot of cards and characters that those people already know and love. I think for people that are extremely excited about those themes, this can draw them into the game. This one deck, unupgraded, can be used at a variety of different power levels, and I think gives you a lot of different options for the way that you play the game. It can teach you lessons about overextending and understanding which hands are viable and which ones aren't. You can become a good Magic player without changing the deck that you play. And if it isn't Universes Beyond that draws them, if it's a different theme, something that excites them about the style of the deck, or the style of the cards. I know a lot of people that started playing because of the Bloomburrow commander decks, and Bloomburrow cards in general. But there's something else that these Bloomburrow decks have going for them that some of the other decks, not so much. And that is their upgradeability. The new commander decks that they've made in the last year or so contain some really solid, middle-of-the-road cards. It's not the most powerful, but it only requires a few cards here and there to make these decks a powerhouse. Probably 10 or 15 cards swapped out of any modern commander deck can easily take you to a 4 on the bracket scale. Now, you're not getting to CEDH by any measure. But with something like this squirrel deck from Bloomburrow, it doesn't take a lot to make Hazel's Brewmaster pop off. Going infinite with Igra and a couple of other cards. I think the flexibility of these commander decks, the upgradeability, the cohesive theme, and the flexible mechanics really make these cards, these decks, great for new players. And I think it's really easy to see how somebody who's just getting started can pick one of these up off the shelf and immediately find a love for Magic the Gathering. And ultimately, that's what we're looking for. So when we talk about picking the right pre-constructed deck for a new player, I think it's important to understand the style of play that they're looking for, the mechanics that suit them as somebody who's interested in playing the game. And then find a theme that works. If it is just the theme that draws them in, that's awesome, but I do think that those people that are only interested in theme frequently feel a little bit let down when their theme doesn't do something that's interesting for them. So try some things. If you're introducing somebody to the game, try a couple different decks. Let them test it out. Show them the options they have. And just ask questions. At the end of a game, say, what did you wish your deck had done? Did you like the way that your deck performed? Did you like the things that it did, the cards that you played with? Is there anything that really sparked your interest, maybe from someone else at the table? And then figure out a precon that works for them. Because I think at this point, there's a precon that does pretty much anything you could ever want to do in Magic the Gathering. And finding the right precon for a new player can really make things click. So I'd love to hear about your early experiences with Magic. Ways that you wish you had been introduced to the game. The decks that really made things click for you. Because I know, in exploring precons recently, I've found a couple of different options that I think can be combined to make something really special. It's been nice talking. Other decks